The delegates of the ANC are now heading to their respective provinces after spending 2 or 3 days deliberating about the future of our country, really, whether at the end of this will translate into meaningful interventions. It remains to be seen. But let me speak to the newly elected chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi. Sir, thank you so much for making time. The overall impression about this conference as it now comes to an end, as Gauteng, what are your takeaways?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Exciting, robust, difficult. We are living in difficult situation and difficult period. The economy is not doing well. Our social fiber is under extreme challenge. And also we need to respond to the issues that are facing society. So we are quite excited that at least conference reaffirms strategic areas. There are lots of policies that are reaffirmed. There are others that are being adjusted, and the others we felt we must let go. So we are quite excited as Gauteng that all delegates of the African National Congress will now speak with one voice. You'll agree with us, when we were coming here, South Africans didn't know which ANC is speaking, who on behalf of the ANC is representing the correct policies. But the president concluded conference with one voice, that all of us as the ANC, we agree that the ANC is still alive, it's still strong, it's still agile, it's still capable, and it can only represent our people and serve them better.
Yeah, there's just so many issues that you have had to deliberate on, and of course we won't go into each one of those. It will take us 3 more days. But the one that was spoken about above almost every other issue is this one of step aside. We had the president saying that it is here to stay. As Gauteng, is that the position that you also hold, considering the fact that in its own nature it's divisive? You don't have a Secretary General in office now. He's been forced to step aside.
No, let's not create something that is not there. The president summarized the discussions. And if you are disciplined members of the ANC, you have to accept what the president has summarized. And that's what conference have said, that in this we have to strengthen it. There are limitations, there are challenges. And there are some people believe it's not consistent, it needs to be implemented appropriately. And all agreed as conference, unanimously so. I must emphasize that particular point. So it's not an issue. The issue is poverty. The issue is unemployment. The issue is inequality. The issue is lawlessness. The issue is the number of things that are going high when salaries of ordinary workers are going down. Those are the issues that we want to. We can't continue to be inward focused. We have to deal with issues that affect our people. Fuel prices, energy, and many other things that people feel that are not there. You can't have young people, so many young people that are unemployed. And we are inward focused, who must step aside, who must not step aside. I'm glad conference have pronounced itself. Let's all of us accept that and take this opportunity as a rallying call to go and safeguard our people, shield them against poverty, shield them against lawlessness, but what most importantly, make the economy to perform so that they don't rely on handouts, they rely on opportunities.
Yeah, just a final one, not very long. A lot of South Africans would remember there was a statement that says the ANC will rule until Jesus comes. Here in Gauteng, do you still believe that?
Well, the ANC is the choice of the people, but the choice of the people does not mean you are entitled to lead them. People have to make their choices. When the Freedom Charter says the people shall govern, it didn't say the ANC shall govern. It said the people shall govern, and we must desist of thinking that we're entitled to govern our people. Where we make mistake, I'll be the first one to be proud that our people will say, we don't like this. And if they've said that in municipalities, we just stand up, dust ourselves, embrace their criticism, and work more hard to ensure that we represent them. But there is no option outside the African National Congress. Who has the capabilities to run our country outside the African National Congress? It's very difficult. You can't give it to the Freedom Front. You can't give it to ACDP, who don't want to believe that all of us are equal as men and women and other genders. You can't give it to AfriForum. You can't give it to the DA that feels that black people are not entitled to be here. You can't give it to people that believe a certain province should be a standalone province outside the country. The only organization that can guarantee our people, our future, can build, and racialism can build opportunities, remains the African National Congress. Obviously, there are a lot of limitations that we have learned, and the purpose of this policy conference was to sharpen those particular differences, iron them out, and ensure that we remain a relevant movement, and we are a relevant movement to our people.
While we are at it, actually talking of AfriForum, they have given you until Saturday to retract and apologize the statement that you said about them, saying they are a racist organization. When are you apologizing?
They are a racist movement. If you defend an apartheid flag, you are a racist movement. If you glorify Hendrik Verwoerd, you are a racist movement. And it's wishful thinking that they think that I will apologize. I'll never apologize. Apologize for the truth. Apologize for my opinion. Apologize for my freedom of speech. AfriForum is nothing else but a far right-wing movement that believes a certain race and a certain language must be prioritized against the challenges that are facing our country. We can't allow that, and we'll never apologize to that.
Banyaza Lesufi, thanks for your time. Well, no love lost there between Banyaza Lesufi and AfriForum. But importantly, Braden and Masego, we know that these delegates, as they go back to their branches, they will then have to formulate a policy position and come back possibly here or anywhere else for the national conference where these proposals will then be adopted as resolutions. Well, I have another guest, Moloko. Thank you so much, ma'am. You're the chairperson of the ANC's Economic Transformation Committee. People who are jobless, people who really, 12 million South Africans who are out there, not in school, not in employment, they have even given up in terms of looking for a job. What hope really must they have as US delegates are getting out of this meeting?
Look, delegates in the conference, and you'll see when we circulate the documents, really spoke strongly about the issues of unemployment, to the point that especially a support was that we need to declare unemployment, especially of youth, a national disaster, so that all of us in departments, we must urgently intervene and find mechanisms to deal with it, be able to put programs that respond to this support in terms of on procurement. They were even redirecting that budgets must go to areas where they will promote employment. So the reindustrialization of the economy, it was flagged, but also where they were saying we don't have to wait for December. There are things that we've committed to doing in the last conference and we need to do now so that we can come back with a resolution, with a report in December. I think what was different as well here is that delegates were really impatient with, especially those of us who are deployed, to say it's time that you actually get your acts together to be able to implement the resolutions and change the status of the economy in the country. And I think that should give comfort to many of South Africans that delegates didn't just arrive and go. They raised the issues that they have been encountering in communities as our volunteers doing door-to-door.
Final question for you, ma'am. The state, a lot of people are looking for employment within the state, but we know you are employing as the state just over 1 million people, and surely 12 million people, not all of them can go and work for government. The president here now has just said that you are recognizing the importance of the private sector, both big business and small business. If you were to break it down for us, how exactly is the private sector really going to be helpful in this regard? What kind of programs do you believe they should be implementing to create these jobs?
Look, the first one is we believe that the private sector can play a role in terms of the infrastructure development. They can also play a role in terms of investment. So we've always looked in terms of saying our economy is a mixed one, where private and public has a role to play. Yes, delegates would have emphasized the need for us as government to continue to ensure the centrality of government so that we can be able to ensure that the developmental mandate is not lost. So the PPP models around infrastructure, even around energy generation, has been endorsed to say, but make sure that you don't compromise Eskom, you remain with Eskom still being able to play a critical role.
Thank you so much, Moloko Kubai. She is the chairperson of the ANC's Economic Reform Committee. But let's hear from the leftists, the newly elected General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Solly Mapaila. As an alliance partner, firstly, tell us about what you liked and what you did not like, because you always have opinions.
No, thank you very much. The first thing which was important is that we had a successful policy conference organizationally. And the framework on organizational renewal was quite impressive, and the commitment of the ANC to change its ways, particularly to recommit itself to the core foundations of our revolutionary movement and how to reset up the organization itself, the ANC. That came out quite well. We are happy with that, and we think that this organizational renewal framework must be deepened and replicated in society as well, across all structures of the movement. So that part was quite commendable. We are also happy with some of the areas, quick responses to the immediate challenges facing the people in this country, the commitment to sort out problems around ESCOM, to alleviate crisis in inflation, particularly high rate of petrol prices, the posture towards tackling the critical problem that we face over the years of fiscal and monetary policy in this country. That openness to engage gives us confidence that perhaps we can quickly tackle this, and the posture of this policy conference as well to change the mandate of the Reserve Bank, or to expand that mandate of the Reserve Bank, was also something good for us. But as they say, the taste is in the pudding. So we want to see the implementation of this particular process, the speedy implementation of this particular process, because the living conditions of the people who are living in misery, they cannot postpone their misery. So that is why the agency in which we need to tackle these matters, it's important for us. Of course, there are issues that we have proposed that our engagement as the Alliance on Economic Summit, we can tackle them. For instance, the neoliberal characterization of key areas of services to the people around water, sanitation, energy, telecommunications, and all of that, referred in the resolutions by the IMF logic of network economic industries, and that they are trying to bring competition there. In their logic, bringing competition is basically bringing privatization, but yet we have received affirmations that there's no posture towards a privatization. We think we need to settle that, because the movement accounts largely on those social services that they are called to the people, and they can't give up those to private capital without the leadership role of the public sector.
Yeah, just a quick one finally. The president has said that and I suppose this is a process that will be led by the National Treasury, to go and see if there is money really to buy off those private shareholders within the South African Reserve Bank. Do you really believe, considering that 2017, this was when this resolution was taken, it will ever happen?
Well, they've outlined the process. For us, the main thing is the fundamental role of the Reserve Bank in job creation, in economic development.
You don't think it can be able to perform that function currently, even in the ownership?
Currently, it can try to do that. Of course, that process, we don't want to. For instance, if you look at if you were to pay off, say, the owners or so-called owners of the Reserve Bank, you're going to need to pay them billions of rands. We don't think that's the priority for now. What is priority is its function, to respond to the living conditions of the people, for job creation, to fund development. That's the key focus. But we are happy with the resolution as it came, because it shows that the frustration that has grown inside the ANC requires immediate interventions in this.
Thank you very much. Solima Paila, the newly elected General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Let me take you, Braden and Masero, to my colleague Siphamandla Goge, who's standing by on the other side. Goge, I'm not too sure if you have a guess that side.
Well, absolutely. Let me tell you that we continue to get reaction from various members of the ANC and provinces. Jimmy Machaga is from Limpopo. Thank you very much for your time. Your overall reaction of this 6th National Policy Conference of the ANC. You came here pushing strongly for issues of immigration and the tightening of South Africa's porous borders. Do you think your proposals were well received?
Yes, I must indicate that as the ANC in Limpopo, we are very happy about the outcomes of the policy proposals as made in this National Policy Conference. We are very happy that the conference has set a very strong tone about the emancipation of women in all sectors of the society, in all sectors of the economy. We are very happy that the National Policy Conference has appreciated the impact that is caused by the foreign national, particularly in relation to crime and also overburdening the South African economy. So how the National Policy Conference have attempted to deal with solutions of issues, we are very happy and we are very confident that this will definitely show the South Africans that the ANC is very serious about its transformation agenda. But we are equally disappointed, of course, that the conference has not accepted our proposal on that we must do away with step-aside. But we still maintain that view that step-aside policy is not necessary. We have a constitutional framework of the ANC that actually respond to that.
Are you taking to the December Congress the issue of step-aside?
For obvious reasons, as the ANC Limpopo will embark on a vigorous process of engaging our branches in preparation for the national conference. And I can assure you, these are just proposals. We are certainly going to be part of those who finally decide the fate of the step-aside in December.
Thank you very much for your time, Baba. That is Jimmy Machaga, who speaks for the ANC in Limpopo. Nongceba Mhlawuli is from the National Task Team of the ANC Youth League. Many issues affecting young people: unemployment, poverty, inequality, education. Your overall takeaway of the outcomes of these of the 6th National Policy Conference?
Our overall outcomes is that we've been able to win many of the debates that we came in as the Progressive Youth Alliance. You would have known that before the policy conference we had issued a document with the list of things that we will be advocating for. Many of those have been adopted, and we must say that we are happy that we've won a lot of the discussions, particularly in commissions. I mean, the discussions on organizational renewal, we spoke about the issue of membership, we spoke about the issue of branches in good standing, discussions around economic transformation, we spoke about, issues of skills development, we spoke about issues of youth set-asides, we spoke about issues of implementation, of 30% in terms of, government contracts. We spoke about the energy issues, energy crisis and how to resolve that. We spoke about the state of SOEs. We were happy that there was now a report that, for example, with the now being moved back to the SANDF, which is something that we were advocating for. We are obviously saying that with the state-owned enterprises, others as well must be taken back. But overall, look, even as a result of social transformation as well, a lot of issues that we came here to win as young people, we've won. Some we have not. We wanted the issue of the retirement age at 65%. The elders were not impressed with us. We will be taking that battle to national conference, as well as other issues as well with regards to the issue of youth representation and ANC structures.
Very briefly, when is the national conference of the ANC?
We do not have a date yet as the current moment. The previous date that we had, we have missed now because we were supposed to have been in May. But as soon as we have a new date, we will be able to communicate that, and we hope that that should be well before we go to December. Thank you.
Thank you very much for time. I'll have to take it back to my colleague Moloto there, who's with the ANC's Enoch Godongwane.
Thank you very much. Now we are joined by Enoch Godongwana. Of course, he has made it clear that he's not going to speak here as somebody who is at the leadership of the African National Congress. Otherwise, he's going to confine his conversation with us on issues of the finances. Of course, sir, it is going to be very difficult now. As much as you say you're not going to comment, people are saying nationalize this conference, nationalize the Reserve Bank, reiterating that resolution. How much exactly will it cost to pay off these private shareholders within the Reserve Bank?
I don't know, it depending on the evaluation of the bank or its value. There will be different interpretations of that value, but it's massive.
The possibility or the proposal to introduce the basic income grants, surely it's going to cost more. Just remind us how much we're paying for the social grants currently, and if we were to introduce the basic income grants, where will the money come from?
Look, as things stand, roughly social grants are about, give or take, 400 billion rand.
Every year?
Every year. Over the next 3 years, they will cost about 1 trillion rand.
And in your opinion, can the fiscus afford to add more in terms of the basic income grant?
It can afford to do so at a cost. What that means, we'll have to cut a number of social spending issues to cost reduction somewhere to fund it.
Will that include perhaps increasing corporate tax to 28% and the VAT to 16%?
Let me just say, if we had to do those things, the best you can get out of those two taxes is probably about 60 billion rand, which is insufficient to deal with that question. It's quite easy when you're sitting there, increase that. What that translates into when you run a model is a different problem.
Yeah. Let me then ask you about the reports that government is intending to take the bill or the debt of Eskom, which is at around 400 billion rand. Just give us an update in that regard, because you are
I can give you an in-principle approach from National Treasury, which is not even yet a government position. In the interaction with National Treasury and Eskom and other people who do the analysis of Eskom, is that we are faced with two kind of twin evils of total default by Eskom, or us taking a portion of the Eskom debt, in which case it would bump up our debt to GDP ratio, but it's something that's manageable.
Which means we must go back to the capital markets to borrow money?
Government borrow money every year, every week, so it's nothing out of the ordinary.
Right, thank you so much. The man who controls the purse, Kodongwana. Let me now take you over to my colleague, Siphamandla Goge.
Absolutely, we continue to get some reaction from ANC provincial leaders, NEC members, and one of those provinces that came to this conference, with an aim of vigorously defending the step-aside resolution is the ANC in the Eastern Cape. Oscar Mabuyane is the provincial chairperson of the ANC in the Eastern Cape. I'm told that you argued vigorously to defend the step-aside resolution of the ANC on organizational renewal and unity project. What is it that made you feel that the current form of step-aside is in order, there is no need to tamper with it?
Thank you very much, Goge. The Eastern Cape province came here very much prepared, not for step-aside. We never had step-aside as our preoccupation. We have implemented this even way before the NEC implemented, because we believed that we needed to confront the malfeasance in the organization, and we needed to also find a way of reigniting, reactivating the level of consciousness and conscience in the individual members of the ANC. And people understand that they join ANC. It's not ANC that joins them. So we came here very much prepared for policy issues, policy assessment as a province, and we were very much aware that one of those provinces that still needed to be very much looked up by government of the ANC to address the serious backlogs that we are confronted with in that province. On step-aside issues, we came very clear, and that this is one area that if you scrap it, you will be authorizing the demise of the ANC. So we're moving forward with that. We're very clear on that one.
You run one of the very poorest provinces in South Africa. Issues of healthcare in your province, issues of education, failing local government and municipalities. What is it that you think this 6th National Policy Conference of the ANC will help you in the Eastern Cape to change the situation and the plight of the people of the Eastern Cape who have been suffering for a very long time under the ANC-led government?
You need to normalize ANC for everyone who's a member of the ANC and a deployee of ANC to understand what when you go to government, you are there to transform the lives of our people, to transform our country. So we came to the policy conference with that understanding and of course trying to push for proper resolutions, looking at the 54th National Conference resolution, affirming the progressive resolution that we were able to implement, get a report from those who didn't. Eastern Cape is really suffering, as we have been arguing that we might be peripheral to the center, but we are the center of the periphery. We have suffered under colonial system, suffered under apartheid. So we still felt that we're still in isolation under the very same government. A lot should have been done to improve
by the ANC, but some of that suffering is brought by the ANC itself, whether through lack of delivering services and corruption.
I can tell you that the government hasn't really done much. I must be frank about that, especially in the rural province. It might not necessarily be Eastern Cape alone. But I can tell you, the presidents of President Zuma made a huge difference in the Eastern Cape, intervention on infrastructure, improving infrastructure, etc., etc. We're building on that. We've been building on that, and we're quite happy with the work that government is doing, and we're able to move forward.
Thank you, dear. That is the chairperson of the ANC in the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyanez. I take it back to my colleague, Moloko Moloto.
I am now joined by Mr. David Mahlobo. He is the chairperson of the ANC's subcommittee on peace and stability. Sir, before we even get to issues that relates to your subcommittee, there has been people, remarks, I don't want to mention their names, who said the ANC will rule until Jesus comes. I know your views, having listened to your address when you were addressing the Free State Provincial General Council recently. Tell our viewers what you think of that.
Well, any revolutionary movement has to understand that governance is not an easy thing. And it has to, if it has to win their hearts and the minds of our people, it has to stay relevant. And you can only stay relevant by responding to the plight of the people, especially the majority of those, but also to pull the nation together in terms of a shared vision. And many organizations at a particular point, they lost the GPS. In other words, they lost direction. When they became to be in power, they did certain things, especially around governance failures, not being able to deliver on services and met the expectations of our people. And this is one of the warnings that one of our finest leaders, President O.R. Tambo, said, waging the struggle for liberation is one of the most challenging things, but we should be able to understand that he said we must wait until we are actually assuming the responsibility to govern. He might not be there at that particular time. And we will see how it is so difficult to govern. And we must also be prepared as government, or a party that is leading government, to learn from, even from the good things that the enemy will have done, and even learn from the other people. We're at that particular point in time that our movement must be able to learn from other revolutions. We must be able to learn from other former liberation movements. And when we don't renew and we don't unite and respond to the current condition in which our people they find themselves in, the people are going to proceed. They will look for an alternative, because even this movement, the ANC, is a creation of the people to respond to their struggles. And the ANC must always remember that it's not bigger than the people. It remains an instrument in the hands of the people. Why at that particular stage, but the National Policy Conference, there is a clear commitment politically, even the delegates that are here, and it has dawned on us that the renewal of the ANC is paramount for the renewal of the nation under the current economic condition. People are in debt. There is no food. The cost of living is very high. The unemployment is very high. And other issues that are there, and some of them they're not feeling safe. And the only organization that they still think is viable is the ANC. And the ANC dare not fails. It has to live up to those expectations.
Yeah, and Mr. Matrobo, your challenges are multi-pronged, internally and externally. Internally, you are facing these never-ending divisions, but externally, you are facing an angry voter, angered by many factors that you have just mentioned. But I am going to single out the issue of immigration, whether we agree with it or not. People are just angry at the fact that there seems to be a movement of foreign nationals in South Africa, people who are not documented. I don't want to even refer you to the situation that happened now in Krugersdorp. What is the position of the ANC in as far as this whole issue of immigration is concerned? Because you did say that it actually threatens the stability of the country.
We have noted that when it comes to issues of migration, as the ANC, we have not led on this matter well. In the first instance, to give what is our policy position when it comes to migration. And the policy document that has been produced by Peace and Stability clearly engaged by the Commission them, even on the report back. One of our things is that migration has a lot of benefits. We're part of the global community. We need to allow the free movement of people for various reasons to stimulate our economy in terms of tourism, people investing in your own countries, but at the very same time issues around skills, exchanging of those ideas, including issues of recreation and culture. But at the very same time, the biggest issue has been the management of illegal migrants. And the illegal migrants, the system in our country has been exploited. In the main, on the basis that other countries, they are failing to handle the issues of stability in their own government. People are coming here. And at the very same time, we are also having our own issues of the porous borders that are here, the integrity of our documentation, including the issues of our own laws that are there. That's why there is a review, there's an integration. But the issues of criminality, our attitude as the ANC is that crime is crime irrespective of nationality, and those who are here in South Africa, whether they are legal or illegal, they must respect the laws of our land. And our laws must be able to abide without any fear or favor or contradiction. At the same time, we have the issue of certain sectors of the economy. Our people, because of the economic conditions that are there, there are certain jobs that they feel, no, we must have a policy to be able to control who enters them, which is an element of some protectionism, but will not be the only country to protect certain low skills jobs so that we can be able to manage the issues of the agitation.
We're going to do that because in Zimbabwe we know there are certain industries you can't work. You can't go and do hairdos, for instance.
We are going to put some legislation in the main around the issues of skills. Where actually government has issued that these are the kind of skills that we think are the skills that are required by the economy, that it doesn't reside in South Africa, so that we can be able to deal with the issue of economic migrants. But at the very same time, we need to deal with the question of the bylaws by municipalities. Who actually is allowed to be able to do those tax shops, do these other things, and to a certain degree, many of the comrades are making that proposition. Then finally in the conference in December, we should be able to make a final determination that to a certain extent, there are certain sectors of the economy that we must protect.
All right, just a quick and final one, Mr. Matrobo. When you interact with your colleagues, particularly your friends north of Limpopo in ZANU PF, what are they saying about, because we don't have much problems in Botswana, for instance, or in Namibia. What are they saying in with regard to the illegal foreigners who are crossing the river into South Africa?
We are trying to, there has been an engagement between ministers of foreign affairs within our region to say to them that we need to work together on this issue, because you will know that the economy of our country was built on the bedrock and the sweat of those people from the region. But at the very same time, there are certain issues that to say, how do we manage the borders together? Because there are certain areas we are looking even in terms of a single infrastructure that can be there, so that we are able to manage those issues that we can see. It's not an easy issue, and these discussions will continue, including at a political level. Because in terms of being fraternal organization or former liberation movements, we must be able to take, because they too must be able to play their part. It's not only the countries in SADC. We are also even countries where people are moving about 3 or 4 receiving countries. They jump all of them. And in terms of the UN Convention around refugees and asylum seekers, the first country nearest to you must be that. But they are passing them to South Africa. And these are some of the issues that we think we should be able to find a solution. Because if we don't, certain elements within certain communities, they will use the agitation and be able to fan xenophobia and say most of their trouble is caused by foreign nationals. And we happen to be one people. And we should be able then to say, no, let's not pinpoint, but where there's wrongdoing, let's be able to do it. But the ANC now, for the first time, is very clear that all these migration laws must be reviewed, they must be streamlined, issues of citizenship, issues around all these permits and visas, which there's a plethora of them, that in other countries you'll never be able to find it, including some of these things of bringing a migrant or asylum seekers or refugees without an issue of saying that these are the conditions. Remember, they are integrated within our communities. Unlike in other countries, immediately you arrive at the border, the reception center is there, you get to be processed, and these are some of the recommendations they are making, but ultimately the final decision will rest with the conference in December.
Thank you so much, David Mahlobo. He says ultimately all these policy proposals will have to be ratified or rejected by the National Policy Conference. And also it speaks to Braden, the fact that the president is clear, emphasizing that step-aside rule must stay. As some of the delegates were walking out here from Gauteng, they were actually unhappy. And you get a sense that it is not going to end here. It will not be surprising should they go to branches and they come to the national conference when they have more numbers and the position changes, Braden.